Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Chris Lukhaup, and today I would like to take you with me to some of my favorite places on earth that are in Florida, the freshwater springs of Florida. And as you know, Florida is not only a dream destination for millions of tourists who like to bathe in the sun and want to enjoy the beaches, but also for lovers of nature like me, especially the Everglades with their fantastic flora and fauna, but also the numerous clear springs that burble millions of liters of crystal clear water up from the depths. One place that I always try to visit when I'm in Florida is Gilchrist Springs State Park. Meanwhile, it's a state park before it was private owned, but this park is located in Gilchrist County, about 5 miles to the west of High Springs. That's about 25 miles south of Lake City and about 20 miles to the northwest of Gainesville. In the park there are 5 springs. The main spring, that is known as Gilchrist Blue. Then the other named springs are Little Brew Spring, Naked Spring, Kiefer Spring and Johnson Spring. The diversity of wildlife species is just amazing in this place. It includes turtles, of course fish, because these you see the first, but it also has invertebrates there. I found 2 species of crayfish, Procambarus spiculifer and the dwarf crayfish from the genus Cambarellus, but also a freshwater shrimp from the genus Palemonetes. And of course you find turtles, crayfish and fish in the other springs too. But what is so different here is the beautiful water plants. And we have different species here in the spring, and they make the spring, in my view, very different from the other springs. The spring is frequented a lot by people. Of course, they snorkel, they swim there. Meanwhile, it's a little bit better because they restricted the access to the spring. But still you can see there is impact of people. And of course when it comes to snorkel or to swim in Florida springs, people ask me about alligators. Well, in this specific spring I have never seen an alligator, and I have been like 4 or 5 times visiting the springs. But it's always an issue, you know. You can find alligators in Florida waters, they are there, so you always have to be careful, and before you go into the water you should talk to the park manager or to the officials. The Santa Fe River, where the Blue Spring Run leads to, is home to about 15 species of turtles. And when I went into the spring early morning, it was between 6 and 7, I could find hundreds of turtles in the main spring, and the species is Pseudemis suwaniensis, or the common name Suwannee cooter. And in 2013, more than 500 turtles of the Suwannee cooter came into the Blue Springs at once and ate most of the hydrilla. That's an invasive plant species that lives in the spring. And the Suwannee cooters are the most common turtles that you will find in the spring. They grow pretty big, up to 22 pounds. The females get usually bigger than the males. But there are also other turtles like the smaller loggerhead musk turtle or the really big snapping turtles that you should really keep an eye on. The most common fish in the spring are the sunfish from the genus Lepomis. There are several species of sunfish in the springs. Many of them are not scared of people, and they will swim right up to your mask or come to you. And the species are Lepomis auritus, that's the Latin name, the red-breast sunfish, common name, Lepomis macrochirus, bluegill, Lepomis microlophus, the red ear sunfish, also called shellcrackers because they eat snails, and Lepomis punctatus, the spotted sunfish. The schooling fish in the foreground are Notropsis harperi, the red-eyed chub. They are usually found hiding in the grasses. They eat smaller insects, crustaceans or smaller fishes. And you pay a lot of attention, you see a fish with a red fin. That's Lucania godei, the blue-finned killifish. Besides the schoolfish, the sunfish and the killifish, there's another species in this river. And in fact I think it's 2 species, if I'm honest. I think it's Micropterus salmoides, the largemouth bass, and the Suwannee bass, Micropterus notius. The Suwannee bass is usually a little bit smaller. It looks very similar, and its mouth doesn't extend beyond its eye like that of the largemouth bass. Another species that I have seen, but from a little bit more far away, they have been hiding or swimming away when I approached them, was Eremizon suceta. the lake chubsucker. And this species has its native range from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi River Basin, from southern Ontario to Wisconsin and to the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic slope from southern Virginia to southern Florida, and even in Texas in the Guadalupe River you can find them. And all in all, we have like 20 to 25 species of freshwater fish occurring in these waters. There is, of course, the long-nosed gar. There are 3 species of gar in Florida. Then we have the spotted sucker. We have the striped mullet. We have the golden shiner. I mentioned already the red-eyed chub. We have the black-banded darter. So you see there's plenty of fish there. Unfortunately, I have not seen them all, but I hope in the future I can photograph or film one or the other. And we have also freshwater invertebrates, like here Procambarus spiculifer. It's a rather big crayfish, more night active. You will rarely see them during the day, just if you lift the rocks or some wood. And then we have a dwarf species of crayfish, Cambarellus diminutus. And also these guys are hiding mostly in the roots, in the water plants or under rocks. And of course, there are also some freshwater snails in this spring. The most important one is Elimia floridensis. I think the common name is Elimia snail. So this is the most common snail at Blue Springs. They are important for this spring because they eat algae. And if you look closely, you will see that their bodies are speckled black and bright orange. And you can find them on logs, on water plants. In fact, you will see tons of them everywhere. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we also have shrimp here, freshwater shrimp, Palemonetes paludosus, and common name is eastern grass shrimp. These shrimp, you can probably not see them during the day because in the spring there's big fish that would eat them, so they come out at night to feed, and if you lift the rocks then you might see them. Usually the shrimp is about 20 millimeters, that's about 2 centimeters or 1 inch, a bit bigger than 1 inch. The most beautiful plant in this spring is Ludwigia repens. This is a classical aquarium plant. It originates from the south of the United States, Central America, in the Caribbean, where it grows on the edges of all kinds of water bodies, ditches, rivers, lakes, ponds. And here you can see that it forms dense trailing populations in the shallow water, and it is really red because of the intense sunlight. In the aquarium we use it as a background plant, and it is said that it grows up to 50 centimeters, that's about 20 inches, but here in the spring I have seen plants that are at least 3 times longer, so up to 1.5 meters, so that's 60 inch. And in the places where there's not that much sunlight or where they are not exposed to full sunlight, the plant is rather greenish yellowish. The plant likes temperature from 20 to 28 degrees Celsius, that's about 68 to 82 Fahrenheit, and good pH would be 6.0 to 8.0. In 2018, Hurricane Katrina hit the springs and the water was just brown for many weeks, so the light could not go to the plants directly, so most of the plants died, and as you can see here, a lot of algae appeared, and Ludwigia repens is very short, so they will need a lot of time to recover, so it looks like it looked before. We have 2 plants in this spring that have very long elongated leaves. One is Vallisneria americana, the eelgrass or tape grass, and the other one is Sagittaria curziana. And the Vallisneria is a very popular aquarium plant. Sagittaria curziana, I have not seen them so often in the trade. The common name of Sagittaria curziana is spring tape, and this plant is native to Florida. It can grow up to 250 centimeters long, but rarely more than 15 millimeter wide. So the difference between Vallisneria americana and Sagittaria curziana is that Vallisneria americana has much broader leaves than Sagittaria curziana. Of course, there's a lot of moss in this spring as well. But even if I looked for it online, tried to find some papers of what kind of moss it is, I could not key it out, so I would just leave it as moss and hope to figure it out in the future. And besides the algae that unfortunately grew the last years very strong, On the left side we have Ludwigia repens that is really bright red, and on the right side the green plant there is not a plant, it's an algae. I would place it in the genus Chara, and it looks like a plant, but in fact it's an algae. Another plant that I found here, but this plant grows preferably at the margins where there's a lot of light, it requires a lot of light, it likes a lot of light. It's Hydrocotyle verticillata. It's also known as whorled pennyworth or marsh pennyworth or shield pennyworth, and it is common in South America and North America and the West Indies. A plant that I was rather surprised to find here, even if I know it's common, I have not seen it before, is Lobelia cardinalis, the cardinal flower. This plant is native to the Americas, from southern Canada through the eastern and southwestern United States to Mexico, Central America to northern Colombia. So now probably you will understand why this is one of my favorite places on earth. I know that there was an impact of Hurricane Katrina. I returned 2020, and I better don't show you what I have seen because it was totally nearly without plants, let's say it like that. But I hope that the spring will recover and that it will look one day like it looks here on this video that I took 2014 or 15, I don't remember exactly. So I hope you like this place, and if you have a chance, visit it in the future. I hope you liked the video, and thanks for watching. I see you in the next video. I don't know if you have heard that Oliver Knott and me have a fish and shrimp food out. It's the Black Label. The shrimp food and fish food is called Chris and Ollie's under the brand Natureholic. You can find it under chrisandollies.com. Check it out. Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video.